A few months ago, my channel reached a subscriber milestone, 100,000 subscribers, and I thought this presented a good opportunity to make a more personal video and take you on a tour to a special place, Tel Gezer, and talk about the channel, why I started it, the changes there have been, and basically how YouTube has changed my life. Regardless of my channel, I just love YouTube. I grew up in the 80s and 90s. The first CD I bought was Hitman 3 with Dr. Alban Sing Hallelujah. I know. The fact that you can now listen to any song you want, anytime, and for free, totally blows my mind. You can now, like right now, listen to Stairway to Heaven or Wild Horses. We live in the future. This channel began as a travel channel. That's why I wanted to take you on a guided tour to Tel Gezer. I chose this place because it is the area I grew up in this nice village called Karmei Yosef, and I've been here hundreds of times. Tel Gezer is an ancient site that is mentioned in the Bible. For me, and probably for all the people in Karmei Yosef, Tel Gezer is not just a biblical site. It's just a place we take our dogs for a walk or go for a walk with friends, a place to bring a date to, or just sit and enjoy a bakal caffeine. But still, I can say that a site in my backyard was written about in the Bible, and not many of you can say that. If you want to understand why this ancient site is located exactly here, you need to understand the basics of the land of Israel. For some of you, Israel is the place you hear about on the news. For some, it is the Holy Land. But the land of Israel is basically a corridor between continents, Asia, Africa, and Europe, as well as a corridor between empires, the Egyptians and the Babylonians, the Greeks and the Romans, the East and the West. So between the empires, you find this corridor with its roads, and Tel Gezer is located at the intersection of two roads, one that you can see going up into the mountains, up to Jerusalem, and a more important one, which is called the Via Maris. This road connects the two centers of ancient civilization, Egypt and Mesopotamia. Now, ancient is a relative term. In Israel, everything that happened in the last 2,000 years counts as yesterday. Ancient here is at least 3, 4, or 5,000 years ago. History is basically learning about the past through writing, and in Mesopotamia and Egypt, writing was invented about 5,000 years ago, which is when history as a discipline started. Here in Tel Gezer, it was where the Gezer calendar was found. The writing here dates back to the 10th century BC, so that's 3,000 years ago. Ancient writings were written from left to right because it was easier to work that way with a hammer and chisel. That direction didn't change until ink replaced the hammer and chisel, and you didn't want your hand going over the not yet dried ink. Now, the writing here dates back 3,000 years ago, and this is called Proto-Canaanite or Paleo-Hebrew writing. Now, I speak Hebrew, so can I read this? The answer is no. Israelis can read texts that are 2,000 to 2,200 years old, but you need to be an expert to read texts written in this ancient writing, and experts have deciphered what is written here. It says what to do in each month of the year, 2 months gathering, 2 months planting, and so on. The original Gezer calendar is now in Istanbul, as it was discovered in 1908 when the Ottoman Empire ruled the region. I hope that one day they will bring it back to where it belongs. What I just told you about the roads and the writing is an example of what I do as a tour guide. And in a place like Israel, you won't understand very much about anything without a guide. And that is exactly what got me started. I realized that there was this huge problem in Israel that no one was talking about. Most of the important sites, like Tel Gezer, are not that impressive in themselves if you're just looking at them. Without a guide, you will understand next to nothing and easily feel disappointed. In Israel, you need to have the knowledge to fully appreciate what it is you are looking at. Add to that Israel is very expensive, both to live in and travel in. A full day with an experienced guide will cost you around $500. Most travelers don't want to spend that much money, so I thought I would start a website with all my practical tips about the airport, transportation, and building an itinerary, and then sell these booklets I made featuring all the information I say on my tours. That way, I could make my knowledge accessible and affordable for a lot more people. The first video I uploaded in 2016 was a 3-minute video about Israelis and the Hebrew language and Israelis' way of speaking English. I even put on my fancy shirt. All I will say is that this is the first video I published, but not the first video I tried to make. When I first had the idea of making a video, I thought I would do a video about Masada. I love to guide there, and so I bought a selfie stick, drove 2 hours to Masada, went up there, attached the selfie stick, and almost started crying. I didn't know how to start with Masada, with King Herod, with presenting myself, with the Judean deserts, like, Shalom, I'm Oren, I'm in Masada, Masada is in the Dead Sea. It was windy, and there were lots of school children around. I drove back home and thought that I was an idiot. It took me a few months to try again. And here is a good tip if you are planning on starting your own YouTube channel. It is not as easy as it looks. If you think that I woke up this morning and decided to go to Tel Gezer and make a video about YouTube, you are wrong. Maybe there are YouTubers out there who can do it, but I can't. I write down all the main points I want to talk about. I come here, I say and film everything 2 to 3 times, and then edit it and throw away 70%, so only the best parts are in. Almost every time you are seeing the B-roll, which is all the footage where you hear me but you don't see me talking. This is probably because I'm stitching 2 parts together and I don't want you to see the cut. After a few months of uploading videos to my YouTube channel, I started to see the results, and the biggest advantage was not what I had expected. The people who started coming to my tours knew me from my videos, and the tours became much more fun. Videos are so powerful, and the videos were the best filter ever. People who watched my videos and didn't like my accent, my way of guiding, my jokes, didn't book me. There is nothing better for a tour guide or for any other business than not having the wrong people coming to you. I guided mostly 1 or 2 day tours in Jerusalem, and the challenge then is that you hardly have time to get to know the people, and when guiding in Jerusalem, you really need to be careful and respectful. There are so many religious and political issues, and as a guide, you are always trying to read your tourists so as not to offend anybody. And because my tourists had already seen my videos and knew my style, they were much more open to me, and it was much more fun. The connection to the people comes so much more easily from videos than if someone reads your post or blog. I will be getting back to how YouTube changed my life, but first, let's talk about King Solomon, shall we? As I said, Gezer is mentioned in the Bible. It is mentioned in Kings chapter 9. King Solomon built the house of the Lord and his own house, and Milo and the walls of Jerusalem, and Chatzor, and Megiddo, and Gezer. For Pharaoh, king of Egypt, has gone up and taken Gezer, and burnt it with fire, and slain the Canaanite who dwelt in the city, and had given it as a present to his daughter, Solomon's wife. So we're now at the entrance, at the gate to the city that King Solomon built. Did King Solomon really build this gate? Before I answer that, the question is, where is the gate? So when we think about ancient gates, most of us think about the gates of a European castle 1,000 years ago. But 3,000 or 4,000 years ago, the gates looked very different. These kinds of gates were called cell gates. You have these sets of 2, 4, or 6 cells facing each other. In days of peace, people were here maybe selling stuff, and in days of war, they would fill the cells with wooden logs and stones so that even if they brought a battering ram, breaking through the 6 cells would be difficult. Did King Solomon really build them? The best answer is maybe. Some archaeologists believe he did, as they date to the 10th century BC, which is the time of the Kingdom of Israel, and the exact kind of 6-cell gates we find in Chatzor and Megiddo, exactly like it says in the Bible. Others say that these kind of gates were popular at the time and were built in other places as well. I believe that you can see a deep connection between these 3 cities, which are located on the same road. But the interesting thing is not what I think, but the role of the gate area in ancient cities. Today, when we think about cities, we think about commercial activity. But back then, things were different. The city was the place where you had the main temple, the palace, the house of the important people, the storage rooms, and the water sources. Most of the people didn't live inside the city, but outside, next to the fields. And the rulers lived in the cities, didn't want the regular simple people in their cities. So you have the institutions here and the farmers there. And where did they meet? Here at the gate. There was a plaza outside the gate, and this is where all the action took place. This is where the market was, where important announcement would be made, where the elderly sat, and where the king judged. If you read the Bible, you will notice that a lot of activity took place at the gate, which means this area. So it is important to understand that the ancient meaning of the word gate is the gate area, rather than a physical entrance. One of the most important artifacts in Israeli archaeology was found outside the gate of the city Dan, in the northern part of Israel. It is a writing that mentions the house of King David, and is probably the only written document outside the Bible that mentions King David. However, the importance of the gate is not only found in archaeology, but also in language itself. Israelis don't think about it, but the word gate, shar in Hebrew, is used in many ways. We don't say exchange rate, we say exchange gates, shar Khalifin. There is a hospital in Jerusalem, which is called the Gate of Justice, Sharei Tzedek. There is an academic center for law called the Gate of Court, Sharei Mishpat. In sport, sha'ar means goal. They scored 2 gates. So the word shar in Hebrew means gate, value, rate, front page, entrance, goal, and it all comes from here. Now, I told you that most or many of the sites are not in themselves impressive, but the most impressive element in most of the archaeological sites, the city of David, Megiddo, and Jerusalem, is the water system. Only when you see these water systems do you understand what people were able to build here 3,000 or 4,000 years ago. The water system here is from the time of the Canaanites, so it is around 3,500 years old. When we were kids, there were no steps and we had to slide down. Now I can walk around here as if I'm in a shopping mall. This shaft is 60 meters deep and 90 meters long, and it goes down to the groundwater. Okay, you can hear the bats. Another site from the Canaanites' time is the standing pillars, matzevot. When Israelis hear the word matzeva, they immediately think about tombstones. But the idea of taking a stone and making it stand up is a very powerful motive in ancient cultures. We see it in the Bible. Moses built an altar at the foot of the mountain and set up 12 stone pillars representing the 12 tribes of Israel. Jacob says, and this stone, which I have set up as a matzeva, shall be God's house. And we see it here in the Canaanite culture and in Egypt and Europe. There is also an altar here, which is another thing that we find in many ancient cultures. Today, when we think about connecting to the gods or to the spirits, we think about sitting quietly, praying or meditating. But in Jewish temples, the same with the Greeks and the Romans and the Canaanites, it always involved the sacrifice of an animal. This was probably some kind of religious site, maybe a place of gathering of the local leaders. In a way, you can still feel the power of this place today. You really should come and visit. So back to YouTube and how this channel started. I was living in Berlin with my wife and 3 kids, and I was guiding Israelis around Berlin. I would fly to Israel to guide in winter because winters in Berlin are not much fun. I always told my Israeli tourists that we were planning to return to Israel, and most of them would say, yes, you will come back when your children have finished college. Israel is an expensive place, and lots of people move abroad saying they will stay in Wisconsin or Berlin for just 1 or 2 years, and then they end up staying for the rest of their lives. We started looking for a place to live in Israel, and then COVID came along. We wouldn't ever have come back if I didn't have my channel. That channel was a small source of income, but I had started to see the potential. I didn't know that COVID, with the help of the Israeli government, would put an end to incoming tourism for so long. Israeli could fly abroad, but tourists were not allowed in. So I had a lot of free time to work on my videos and grow my channel. Afterwards, I started guiding, mostly in Jerusalem, and I only took on people who contact me through my website and channel. It was great until October 7th. During those first days, I felt that I needed to do something to help. I'm not in the army anymore, so I have to do other things. Many Israelis felt that way. I had done a few political videos over the years, and I thought that I would make another one. I then made the Free Palestine No Thanks video. Very quickly, it got to 5 million views, and most of you are here because of that video and my other political videos. What I do is called hasbara in Hebrew, which means explaining the Israeli side. I don't really like this word. My son can do hasbara explaining at school when the teacher asks him why he didn't do his homework. Explaining is defensive. I don't do defense. I spread the simple truth, and I will continue to do that as I see how much misinformation there is about Israel. Maybe it would have been better to have 2 channels, one about travel and one about politics, but I can't bring myself to do that. And in a way, there is a connection. Since October 7th, I have seen a big increase in young Israelis watching my videos, and lots of them write to me that the attacks on Israel made them start asking questions about Israel and the connection to this place. So maybe Israelis don't watch my videos about how to use public transportation, but they will find a video about Tel Gezer or Armageddon, Har Megiddo, interesting. You, the viewers, like my political videos, but YouTube doesn't. YouTube pays the creators. You see ads on YouTube, and YouTube pays the creators their share. You need hundreds of thousands or a few million views a month to get a nice salary only from YouTube ads. I now get a few million views a month, but because my videos are mostly political, most of them are not ad-friendly, so I'm not getting paid for them. And because I have violated the ad policy, I didn't get the play button. The only thing that keeps me going is you guys and your support, and I will always be grateful for that. It's only thanks to you that I can keep making my political videos. I asked my supporters if they have any personal questions, and I got a few questions. I'm going to answer them in a place I want to share with you, Ein Varda. So this is Ein Varda, a really nice place to take a dip in the water. This was the water source of the field around Gezer. Here you can see this sign which says that this garden is dedicated to the memory of Itai Steinberger. Itai grew up in Karmei Yosef and was killed in the Second Lebanon War in 2006. What comes to my mind is that he was younger than me, younger than my brother, and that he has now been dead for almost 20 years. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Now, is this video going to end on a sad note? No. Does it make sense to mention Itai and continue with my thoughts about YouTube? Yes. This is part of our life in Israel. Israel is the country with by far the most memorials for fallen soldiers per capita. You see memorial sites in schools, in the middle of the cities and villages, and in nature. It might be strange to some of you, but this is how we live. We remember and we continue to make plans to travel, work, and make videos. I have talked quite a bit about myself, but what about you? So 30% of you are from the US, 10% are from the UK, and about 7% from Canada, Australia, and Israel. I also know that 75% of you are male and only 25% are female, which offends me, I must say. Why not 50-50? I have only one video that got a higher proportion of female viewers at 65%, and that is about Israeli society's obsession with children. And the question I can't answer is whether more women click on it or whether maybe YouTube shows this video to more women in the first place. I don't know. The video you like the most is the one that I mentioned, Free Palestine, No Thanks. But the video that I like the most is the toilet tour of Jerusalem. A political video anyone can do. Let's face it. The things I say in my political videos are basic. I'm just stating the facts. You know that you don't want to be a lesbian in most of the countries surrounding Israel. And you know that if you want to enjoy the freedom of speech and democracy, Israel is your only option in the Middle East. My Jerusalem toilet tour, on the other hand, is special. You have to be a tour guide, or at least you have to know Jerusalem extremely well to make a video on such an important subject as toilets in the holy city of Jerusalem. Make me happy and go and watch it. It has only 30,000 views, so please help it reach 50,000. Please. I asked my supporters if they had any questions, and I got a few. The one that I expected is, why Wisconsin? So New York is New York, Texas is Texas, Massachusetts it's too complicated, Alaska is a dream, and Idaho just sounds stupid. But Wisconsin is fun to say. I know nothing about Wisconsin, but I imagine it to be a place full of average people like myself. Guys, this is a serious channel. I talk about the Bible, about King David, about war. My last video was about genocide. I need some nonsense in my videos. Other questions I was asked are, how old am I and where have I lived beside Israel? So I'm 41 and I was born in Rehovot in Israel. We moved to Karmei Yosef when I was 3. When I was 7, we lived in Connecticut for 1 year. When I was 13, we moved to Sydney, Australia for 2 years. I can still sing the Australian national anthem. I lived and traveled around Alaska for about 6 months. I spent 2 years in Saarbrücken, which is the southwest of Germany, and 8 years in Berlin, which is also in Germany. And now I live on a kibbutz in the Negev Desert. That's it for today. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Go watch my toilet tour and then listen to Led Zeppelin here on YouTube. It is free. See you next week. Yalla bye. Australia, let us all rejoice, for we are young and free, with golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is girt by sea. What is toil? Never knew what toil is.